Hey everybody, so I am looking a little rough. I flew this morning from North Carolina to Columbus, Ohio. I'm here for a work trip, and I had mentioned on Instagram that I was thinking about doing a video about this because like plus size traveling, taking flights, a lot of people have a lot of questions, including myself, and I experienced a lot of anxiety about this trip, and so I thought I would talk about it. I'm just getting here today, and traveling for work always has its own little thing because you're not necessarily going to like a place you're looking forward to necessarily. And you sometimes travel with colleagues, which I'm doing as well. And so I thought it'd be good to kind of cover a lot of that stuff, like going on work trips, traveling with colleagues, and basically like how plus size bodies might come into that, like how to talk to your colleague about certain things, as well as the flight itself. And I've learned a thing or two this time around because I didn't get to do my normal kind of routine, and it gave me a lot of anxiety. Also, I'm in my hotel room. She's down working on some things. I've already pulled off most of my mascara. Just love me through my worst. Love me through my worst. So I did actually, like a week or so ago, collect some questions on Instagram that people had about this, and then I'm going to talk about some other things beyond what they asked. So if you're curious about traveling for work and being plus size and handling some of the social things that might come up around that, as well as flying on an airplane or just traveling in a plus size body, we're going to talk all about it. Now, if you've never been plus size, you might think that it's no big deal. You just travel the way other people travel. That is not the case. Especially when we think about air travel. They're just not made for accommodating bigger bodies. That could be fat bodies, tall bodies, broad bodies, bodies with any kind of physical impairment. They're not loving space, and it can really make travel fraught with anxiety for people. And I don't think I've ever talked about this, but I do have an anxiety, and I developed anxiety when I was around 21, 22 years old when I first started teaching. So not only did teaching give me gray hairs, which, by the way, you can see right there, see my little gray hair form. So not only did teaching, give me that, it also made me develop an anxiety disorder. And I went from kind of like getting medication and using it whenever I felt like a panic attack was coming. I wasn't sleeping. I had a lot of like physical ailments from anxiety, to the point where I started taking a daily anxiety medication. And I've been on that daily anxiety medication for about 3 years now. And yeah, even though I'm on a daily medication, which does control most of it, I noticed a very sharp increase in my anxiety at certain points in planning the trip. And then in this week coming up to the trip, I felt it a lot. I was not sleeping well, was thinking about it a lot, worst case scenario thinking, clenching my jaw a lot, getting sick on my stomach. So like the whole 24 hours before traveling, I both threw up and got sick on my stomach. And so like this is from anxiety, and it's not pretty, and yet I still somehow got here. And I just want to say all that because like it's really normal for people to have travel anxiety, flying anxiety. It might manifest in different ways for me, and like the first thing that it affects is my stomach, but it could be something else for you. And a lot of the questions that I got were like people really concerned about kind of being open about things, and I will acknowledge here that I am probably more open than most people. So to me, having to like hide the fact that I'm really anxious and that it's making me physically ill, like I just can't deal with it. I'd much rather people just know that that's what's happening. And so for some people, that would be like their worst nightmare, is telling people. So do take what I say with a grain of salt. If you're someone who really values like privacy, because what has helped me cope a lot is making things that are private public, and that may or may not work for you. But anyways, I am completely at this point going off in 80 directions. So maybe I do have some questions about like jobs and stuff. I asked them if they had any questions about jobs or traveling for work. And I think maybe I'll start with just traveling in general, and then we'll move on from there. So I don't fly often. I have probably flown maybe 10 times in my life, maybe a little bit more. I mean, there's some people that fly 10 times in a month. And so, the fact that I don't do it often absolutely contributes to the fear. But what also contributes to the fear is that around me, there are certain airlines available and other ones that are not available. And I joined a couple Facebook groups to really help me like better prepare for travel. One of them is called Fat Girls Traveling, and they talk about traveling to any destination, packing, air, all kinds of stuff. They have basically like a really broad, look at traveling. And the other one I think is called like Flying While Fat. Now that one is super helpful if the air part is freaking you out, because they'll talk to you about certain airplanes, they'll talk to you about certain airlines. You can get to know the policies a lot better. And this is where I wish I had really done my homework, because I did not. And I landed myself in kind of a situation this time that made me super anxious. And if I had just known, I could have gotten myself out of that situation. So I'm going to share some of those tips with you. So first off, if you have Southwest Airlines as an option to you, my understanding is that they have the best customer of size policy, and it is called customer of size policy. Essentially with Southwest, you can either purchase 2 seats, go to the person when you check in and let them know that you're using your customer of size policy, and they'll refund you one of those seats and you'll still get it. So you get 2 seats given to you. From my understanding, people who do this, A, have room on a credit card to do it, but also B, like the assurance of knowing they absolutely will have a seat next to them. The other option, which it seems most people do and have done successfully, is that you can buy one plane ticket, show up and tell them that you'd like to use a customer of size policy, and you will be given for free a second seat. There will be an empty seat next to you. They'll give you a little like piece of paper or something that says it's reserved, and you have a lot more room, and it's free. That is very rare. So that is something that, like, if you're interested and you have Southwest as like an option to you, definitely join that Flying While Fat. They have so many resources of things about that. They've already talked a lot of people through the process of it. And so that to me is like the best airline you can find if it's available to you. On that site, some people have talked about Delta being nice. I've personally never flown Delta, so I don't really want to speak on it too much, and I don't know their policy, but I have heard of Southwest. Now, whenever I book a flight from Charlotte, the options available to me are American Airlines, United Airways, and Delta. And American Airlines is like the number one, at least for everywhere I'm going, which typically has been East Coast. American Airlines does not have a policy like Southwest. You can certainly buy a second seat. They'll take your money for it, but you'll pay for it. And so I've learned that American Airlines is not that helpful, and yet it's the one that I have to fly. So let me talk a little bit about it. So in the past few trips, whenever I've flown with American Airlines, I, either with family, have paid or had a family member, my dad, who travels a lot for work, has been willing to use his miles to upgrade me to first class. First class seating, First class seating, if you're lucky enough to get there, is very comfortable for someone who is up to a size 28-30. All right, you're going to be able to fit fine. Oftentimes on these planes, there's like a 1 seat by itself and then 2 next to it for first class. My suggestion is pick the one that's by yourself. You don't have to worry about your arms touching anybody. You will need a seatbelt extender if you're up to a size 30. So probably a size 24 to 30 would want a seatbelt extender. If you buy, so like for my work pays for my airline ticket. And if they buy the ticket that allows you to pick a seat when you buy it, it's a basic ticket, or it's an economy ticket. Let me get the words on this real quick. Okay, in the main cabin, they have 3 different types of things. They have main cabin extra. This is extra leg room, a little bit more space between the rows, and you're still gonna have the same width, but if you're long, if you're tall, that might be something you wanna do. Main cabin is a regular seat. There's no extra room, but you get to pick your seat. So if you're someone that's like, I need to sit by the window, need to sit by this, or I want to sit next to somebody, and we're planning on squishing together, that's what allows you to do that. And then the last one is basic economy, and that's the cheapest ticket. And this is the ticket I want to warn you about because it gives you very, very little resources to make your situation better. So basic economy, you do not pick your seat. I did learn that up to 7 days before your flight, if there are seats available, which there will be because there will be people that have basic economy, you can pay to pick your seat. But the hardest part of basic economy, unlike the other two, is that you cannot upgrade them. So, for example, in the past, my work bought me a ticket to go to a conference, and they bought it as a main cabin seat. I picked a window seat. I was concerned about not fitting correctly, and so I was able to pay and or use points to get myself into first class. So let's say that the ticket round trip costs $500 for your company. You might only have to pay $200 to get into first class. And while my company would not pay for that, they're going to pay for me to get a main cabin seat. It might be worth my personal $200 for that ease of mind. And that's actually what I was planning on doing this time. I was planning on having my company buy me a regular ticket and then me upgrading it myself and paying for the difference. However, and this is something I didn't know, and next time I know to tell the person who booked my ticket, they booked me a basic economy ticket, which cannot at all be upgraded or canceled or refunded under any situation. It cannot be changed under any situation. So when I realized this, when I realized I was not gonna be able to upgrade myself into first class, I had a freak out moment. I was very concerned about sitting there. I have not sat in the main cabin in a long time. I don't fly often. And I was fearful of getting kicked off the flight. I was fearful. I had heard that, if you go over into the other seat, you could get kicked off the flight. I knew I was flying with a colleague, and I immediately talked to her. And so I told her the situation. She already knows that I make plus size content. She's luckily known me for a long time. She knows this is something I'm passionate about, and she's an empathetic person. And I was like, just so you know, I can't upgrade my ticket. And I'm very nervous about this. I'm concerned about fitting in the seat. I might need to sit next to you, put the middle armrest up, and you might get squished. And she said she was fine with that. So I at least had an ally, which not everyone does. You might have all of these worries and then think that a stranger is going to be next to you. And so that was the plan. And again, out of my ignorance, I thought that if you had a basic economy ticket with no seat arrangement, that was kind of like a free-for-all. Like you just boarded and whatever seats were left you could get into. So I thought if me and her boarded together, we would just be like, hey, can we sit together? And it would happen. Well, then I realized, no, they assign you a seat whenever you check in. And I realized that the day before we left, so yesterday. So I wasn't planning on paying. I told you earlier, basic economy, the only thing is 7 days out before the trip you can pay to pick a seat. So I wasn't planning on doing that, but because I realized it, I decided to pay for me and her to be able to pick our seats. And I did offer to pay because I felt like this was something that she would not have to do if it wasn't for the fact that she was traveling with me. And I think she would have covered it had I not been insistent, but it was important for me personally to cover it. And so I ended up buying seats next to each other, paying the additional amount together for all trips. For me and her, it was $88 to pay to be next to each other. And that was at least giving me some peace of mind that I knew who the person next to me was going to be. If you don't notice this by now, the fear of flying and the fear of not fitting in your space is going to cost you coins. It's going to cost you awkward conversations, and it's going to cost you anxiety. I hate that we have to do this, but I also know that we all think of the real reality of either pissing off someone next to us or getting kicked off a flight. And so I'm just letting you know, these are the things I do. It absolutely avoids the worst case situation. So today, whenever we got on the flight, I had actually, we had been able to purchase the main cabin extra seat. So we had extra legroom. When I got on the flight, I immediately asked for a seatbelt extender. I personally never feel awkward asking for that. I've always had the people working, well, okay, one exception. They've always given it to me very discreetly, quickly. It's right there in front of them. I did have one flight where the flight attendant was like, I'll come bring it back to you. And then seemingly kept forgetting, and like we were about to take off, and I'm like, you're causing me anxiety, give it to me already. But that's only happened one single time. Everything else besides that, they've given it to me really quick. They give it to a lot of people all the time. I don't even give a damn about walking back holding it. That's me personally. People can see I'm big. I'm big. They know I'm getting a seatbelt extender. I'm big. But I have more information about that later if it bothers you. So I asked for my seatbelt extender. He gave it to me right away. He had it right there. I went back. I went in front of my colleague. And when I got to the seat, luckily, again, we had that extra legroom. So it was nice and roomy to be able to get into. And I went ahead and immediately connected the extender to the seatbelt before I sat down. This is because if you're big, those things are like, they're down in my thigh area, you know, like they're down there. And so it's going to be hard to find it later on. So I go ahead and put the extender on it so it's easy for me to clasp. Now, what I did not expect was that whenever we got into the area, our thought is we're just going to put up the middle thing and we'll just sit hip to hip. The middle armrest would not go up. And I'm not sure if that's all American Airlines or if it was that seat. There seemed to be no way to make it go up. I could not tell if other people had made theirs go up. It was frustrating. All best made plans can go to crap if the things don't work out in them. And so, again, like I realize I'm so lucky. My colleague is a woman. She understands. She loves me. She doesn't give a shit. But I can understand why, like, that would be really scary if you're traveling with someone you don't trust. So anyways, what I ended up doing was I just sat down. I do wear, like, leggings, like a tighter bottom, like leggings, and a comfortable top whenever I travel. Leggings are also nice because they're not like jeans. Like, they're not going to get stuck on stuff. They're very easy to, like, swish things around. And fat bodies are movable, shapeable, malleable. So when I sat down, I very much so was like, this sucks. I could fit, but the armrests were going into my hips pretty substantially. I don't know if my hips went numb or if things just, you know, sank and rose above the armrest in a way that was comfortable. But eventually I was comfortable. The nice thing about the American Airlines armrests, especially on the inside, I sat at the window, is that there is space above and below. And so sometimes it's the ones that are the wall that give you the most resistance because there's nowhere for your body to go. But if there's space above and below, your hips can kind of settle underneath, settle on top. If you're big, you've been there. If you're not big, congratulations. You have an easier time sitting in a seat. And so that's what happened. Eventually, it got a little bit more comfortable. I was annoyed at the armrest situation, but also like I realized, again, I'm a size 28 bottom. I realized that I was able to sit in the seat and I wasn't infringing upon her space, which felt better, like knowing, okay, if it was a stranger, I was gonna be okay. It was uncomfortable, but I have a very big bottom. Like this is the area that I struggle the most with in terms of fitting into spaces. And so, unless you're bigger than me, which you might be, I think like if you're a really heavy bottom, size 28, you're gonna be okay. And that is comforting to know, because it used to be if you're like above a size 22, it's a no-go. And then I got strapped in, it was fine, whatever. The flight went on and life went on. And yeah, like it wasn't the most comfortable. Luckily, I was only on an hour-long flight. I think I could have done that. I could have done a 5-hour flight sitting like that. Could I have done an overseas flight like that? I guess I would have, but it was not like comfortable. And I do not try to go to the bathroom on an airplane. I go bathroom beforehand. I did not eat or drink much before I went on my flight. Like I don't want to go to the bathroom on a flight. So I avoid that. And I do everything I can to get through. I also ended up taking an additional anxiety medication. I have a daily pill that I take, and I have a pill that is for when you feel a panic attack coming on. It releases within 30 minutes. I took that. It got me through. And yes, in the past I've had to take Dramamine, however you say it. You do you. You do what makes you feel better. I'm prescribed these pills, so I'm okay taking them. The other thing that I did to help me, and someone actually asked about this, let me get that question up. Someone asked, do you check a suitcase or carry-on? So the last 2 trips I've gone on have been like 3-4 day trips, so I've only had a carry-on. But on both trips, I could check it at the plane, and I chose to do so. So like the first trip, everybody had to check it because there's not enough room in the overhead for everyone's things. But on the second trip, I had the choice, today's trip, and I decided to go ahead and do it. And I preferred it because again, one of my concerns is walking down the aisle of the plane, taking up too much space in that aisle. And if you're someone that's like, too bad, I'm gonna take up my space, go for it. For me, it was easier to check my bag and just be unencumbered by it and just, deal with myself, which I already felt like I had a lot to deal with. So that's one thing I do, is I do check my bag if I can. Let me get some of these questions, because I feel like this one is like the most rambly video I've ever done. All right, so someone said, only traveled by plane once as an adult. It sucked because the seatbelt won't fit. What do you do? Seatbelt extender, seatbelt extender, seatbelt extender. They have them on every plane. They have to have them. Sometimes if they get, so sometimes, just so you know, like seatbelts, when they get broken, they'll cut the belt and it'll be shorter. Like not every seat has the exact same length. You might get a seat with an extra short seatbelt. You might simply just need a seatbelt extender. And so you can ask for a seatbelt extender. They'll give it to you. So as soon as I get on the plane, whenever the flight attendant is right there at the front and I'm entering, I ask it then, because they usually have it in the overhead right there. Some people do not like to ask at all. You can buy airplane seatbelt extenders on Amazon. I would double check if there's like a certain type of airline that you fly often. I would try to double check and make sure you're getting one that's going to work for that. My understanding is there are some differences between airlines. I personally have not ever felt the need to do that. I one time watched a video by Jessica Torres and she's like, take that seatbelt extender. I'm not condoning it. I'm also not telling you what to do with your life, okay? And so do what you need to do, but seatbelt extenders, you deserve to be safe on a plane. Make sure your seatbelt fits correctly, and ask for that seatbelt extender. One person said, tray tables never lay flat on my legs. What can I do? Also, same with me. So, there's a couple things you could do. One is use this table that some of us have. The second one, which might be more reasonable, is to maybe have like a book or something that you can put something on. I don't have a great answer for this. In the past, I just avoid using it. I either hold it and I eat something. I put something on the armrest if there's more space in the armrest. But I haven't honestly been on a flight. The last flight I had that had food was a flight to LA, and I was at my heaviest weight then. I was heavier than I am now, but I was riding in first class because I feared that I would not fit into the regular seat. So we used my dad's miles to do that. Again, I realize that's a really privileged thing to be able to do. That in first class they do have tray tables, but also between each seat, especially for a flight like that, is actually like a wide armrest, like this wide, and so you can actually set like a drink or something on that, or even your food on it while you do other things. So you can look into that if you have that option. What airlines are best for plus size travelers? From my knowledge, Southwest. I can't remember if it's Southwest or Southwestern, so just be nice to me. That's the one I've heard is the best because they have such a good customer of size policy, and from the lot of people that have used it, they have not experienced issues. Make sure that you do need that second seat if you're going to use it. It's really for people that need it, that aren't going to fit into one seat. How do you handle the cost? Do you get any reimbursement or free seating? So when I travel for work, when you work in academics, you get a travel budget. I am not a research faculty member, so I don't actually get that high of a travel budget, but I know my number and I make travel plans based on that number. Because I'm in a new leadership position, the last 2 years I've gotten extra travel funds, and so they have paid for my flight. And then whenever I've upgraded in the past, I've been lucky enough to have a dad who let me use his miles. And then this time I was planning to just pay out of pocket the difference. It would have been around $200. I would not have been reimbursed for that if I had done it. It would have been something that I would have invested in myself to feel more comfortable. Like anything, you're going to have to budget for it, and you're going to decide how much something matters to you. Sometimes you can't afford the first class ticket. Does that mean you then drive to the location? Can you figure out a way to get there and drive? Now, I'm in Ohio. Could I have driven here? Yes, it was an 8-hour drive, so I chose to fly instead. But if fitting had really been that issue and not being able to afford the ticket had been an issue, I would have figured out that I would need to drive. And so it might be reconsidering your travel plans, reconsidering your destination. Obviously, if you want to go someplace that's not easy to drive to, you're gonna have to fly. And that's when you're probably looking for online stuff. And so maybe you're looking at working with some kind of service to get a discount plane ticket. If that's the case, make sure that that plane ticket will either fit you and or is something you can upgrade and pay the difference for later on if you decide to move it to first class. Again, if you're someone that would absolutely need a second seat, you would have to pay for that. And I would, before I did that, call any of these airlines customer service and see how they plan to work with you. When I first found out that this ticket was not something I could upgrade, I called American Airlines, and at first they're like, we can't help you, this ticket's not, can't do anything with it, this is the ticket, that's it. And I was like, you cannot tell me that I'm the only fat person that has trouble fitting into your seats and needs you to accommodate them. And as soon as I said, a fat person accommodate, they started actually talking with me. That's when she told me, like before this, she never told me about it. After I said that, she told me about being able to pick my seat 7 days out. She told me about there's a certain way to like buy tickets that will make the tickets auto cancel because they see you have reservations for the same person twice. It's amazing what getting on the phone with someone who is going to be working with you in customer service, who's willing to work with you in customer service and talking about accommodations, and they have to discuss it with you. So make sure you do that. And if the first person is not going to talk with you, ask to be given someone else. Call back later on and talk to someone else. Again, like, you're going to have to put in the effort to get the result that you want. Tell us all about airlines, packing, rentals, and ride shares. So I've covered airlines pretty far. Packing is not fun, especially when your clothes are bigger. I think I've realized, especially whenever I'm traveling for work, jeans take up a lot of space. Jeans can also be worn more than one day. If I'm going for a 4-day trip, I'm taking one pair of jeans. I'm not wearing jeans to the thing. Jeans take up way too much space. And I also sometimes sacrifice my fashion for my packing. It's like this trip. I did not have room for any more shoes. So I'm wearing my Croc flats. And no matter what I wear this week, it's gonna be with Croc flats. And like, not the most stylish. Would I have loved to have some booties with me? Sure. But it's okay. It's okay that fashion is not going to be like the number one thing for me. I did, of course, learn the rules of an airline of like what to pack and how to pack liquids and things like that. I don't use packing cubes. I tend to stuff my bag all the way full. I'm not the best packer. I overpack, but I make sure it's within a suitcase that would be considered a carry-on. As far as ride shares and stuff go, I have gone on Lyft and Uber, and I oftentimes try to sit in the back seat. If I feel like the seat's small, I don't always wear my seatbelt. Those are not necessarily safe things. Those are things I do for my comfort. Just being honest. Will my company buy me 2 seats if I need them? I don't believe so. I think I would probably have to have paperwork with the Office of Disabilities to get that. And I think they would probably, at that point, have to talk to me about changing my travel plans. Again, we only have so much budget, and it is a hard number. You can't go over it. It would have to come out. And most people in my office spend over their budget, and it comes out of their personal bank account. So probably not. And I would then make only probably local choices for travel. Someone said, not a question, but a tip. Bought my own seatbelt extender. Don't have to ask for one. Yeah, so if asking for a seatbelt extender, and someone actually asked about this today on one of my posts about being here in Ohio. If that's really frightening to you, you might want to go ahead and buy yourself one. Again, every flight attendant I've ever worked with, besides the one who was just annoying me, has always been super professional, discreet, etc. And if they're not, like, let the airline know. How do you survive airplane rides? The seats are getting smaller and smaller. I survive by letting my hips go numb and being distracted. Download some stuff on my phone so when it goes on airplane mode, I can play some games, listen to an audiobook. I luckily am someone that falls asleep really quickly to white noise, and so that can knock me out on a plane. I take medication. The medication helps me. I do everything I can to make myself comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. How do you deal with judging strangers on airplanes? So, I know I mentioned Natalie Hage like 80 times in all my videos. She had a really distressing and unfortunate incident a couple years back that went viral when she shared it, of a man texting about sitting next to her. And I'm sure in that situation she felt very violated, unsafe. You should read. I'll link to it because she has some stuff written about it. It absolutely can happen that you sit next to a miserable, mean person. If that were to happen to me, I would let the flight attendant know. I don't remember if Natalie did. I do know that she confronted the man afterwards. When that kind of stuff happens, I don't think my mind could go anywhere else. I think I'd probably fixate on it for however long I was in the air. But I've never been there myself, thank goodness. And I think it is human nature when you feel uncomfortable, when you feel like you're making someone else uncomfortable, to apologize 80 times. Even with like my friend who I'm here with, and I'm having her like, she's having to deal with my anxiety, but also I'm having to like say, I'm going to buy you a ticket for, like, I'm going to upgrade your ticket to this. I apologize to her a lot of times, and I know deep down that I don't need to apologize, that it's okay. It's okay for me to need something extra. But I do think it's one of those things that we do to make ourselves feel more comfortable for having to need something. And all of us need something. And I'd say, like, as much as you can, give yourself grace. And when you give yourself grace, other people hopefully will give you grace. You know, I haven't had to deal with too many judging strangers on an airplane. I'm trying to think of people who give me dirty looks or anything. Most people have been very kind to me. I'm sure there's a lot of things that go into why that is the case. You know, most of my flights have been in first class. They're going to be nice to me there. But like today, I was sitting with my friend and trying to figure out the whole like situation of not being able to get the armrest up. And it was pretty obvious what I was trying to do. Like, give me some room here, I'm big. But the girl in the seats next to us was also big. And while we didn't talk and she didn't say anything to me, you know, I almost want to be like, solidarity, girl. I know you know what I'm going through. We're both not alone. There's going to be other big people on your flight. I don't know. I'm not answering this very well. I think most people are jerks in their heads and don't say it out loud, and that's their feelings to deal with. The ones that say it out loud, it is inappropriate, and I would tell the flight attendant. Depending on how I felt that day, if I was feeling sassy or not, I might say something to them. But for me, confrontation is not comfortable, especially if I know I'm going to be stuck in a situation with them. So if I'm just being quite honest with myself, I probably wouldn't be very confrontational. Unless I was sitting next to them, then I'm like, get me out of here. And then I would just plainly tell the flight attendant, I'm very uncomfortable sitting here. This person is doing X, Y, and Z. Your problem doesn't have to be your problem alone. I think that's what a lot of us do, is we just hold on to it by ourselves. We need to let other people know when there's a problem. And it is a flight attendant's job to help us. And maybe it's because we assume that either they're going to think we're the problem or something else that we don't speak up. But you bought a ticket, you're a customer, you're allowed space, you're allowed dignity, all those things. If a guy or girl was huffing and puffing because I was sitting next to them and they felt like I was this big person, I'd probably put my earbuds in. And I think a lot of us would ball up and try to take up as little space as possible. Again, if I was feeling sassy, who knows what I would do. It's hard for me to like project or plan how I would deal with rude people, because I feel like when that happens, it's always taking me off guard. Like, because people aren't rude to me on a consistent basis, it shocks me when people are outrightly rude. And so who knows how I'll handle it. I will say I'm a teacher now, so I got this look, and I'll use it on somebody if I need to. All right, so a couple people asked about work stuff, and I'm just gonna keep this short because I feel like I'm already like all over the place in this video. One asked what my occupation is. If you haven't heard already, I am a teacher in higher ed, and an administrator. And so I also like train student employees, run a center, etc. And all of the stuff that I teach and work and deal with is about writing and research, and writing in a really exciting way, writing in different genres for different audiences, for different purposes, digital writing. A lot of it is based on inquiry, real questions that you have, and going to different sources to find out what kind of answers you can get from them, primary research, secondary research, etc. So that's what my occupation is. And because I'm in academics, we do things like conferences. So every time I am traveling, I'm going to a conference where people are presenting their research. I will be going to research panels, and then I'll be presenting myself with my colleague. One person asked, do your students know about your online life, and does that concern you? So I do talk to my students about the fact that I like to make YouTube videos. I used to say I like to blog whenever I used to blog. So I'm pretty open about the fact that I make content creation. Do I give them the name to my stuff? No. There's been a couple girls who have expressed a lot of interest, either in seeing the way I write it or create something, or they themselves are interested in plus size fashion. For those students, I do give the information, and in fact, I've talked to some students after the fact. I have students who are subscribed to me currently. They're not my current students, but they're my old students. I'm pretty open about the fact that I do plus size fashion, and that's how I couch it. I do plus size fashion. And it is both a concern and not a concern. So my mom also watches everything I do. So, in terms of like, am I comfortable with the stuff I've put out there being seen by it? Yes. Do I know some of it might be... So I'm always kind of like cautious or thoughtful about the fact that being a teacher puts a lot of boundaries on your identity and who you get to be in different situations. Like if I were to do something horrible today, like choose to break a law, it wouldn't just be Rebecca broke a law. It'd be Rebecca, a teacher, broke a law. And you're held to a certain moral standard, which I fully believe in. But also there could be like the thought of like a teacher should never be in a bikini. Well, I have videos of me being in a bikini. I am a fat woman who will wear what is appropriate to wear. So I will wear bikinis because bikinis are worn in public. I will likely never post a video of me wearing lingerie because that to me is a little bit less appropriate if my students were to find it. Will I do a video about like my favorite bras and stuff? Probably. I just won't wear them. I won't wear them and just show it, and so there's definitely things like I will never talk about sexual things. Now, granted, I don't know if I would have anyways because I am somewhat private and somewhat... I don't like to use the word conservative because it just means it's too loaded at this point. I'm somewhat prudish. I don't know. But I absolutely think about the fact that students will watch me. But I also absolutely believe that I'm a full human being who experiences lots of things like dating, etc. And I'm allowed to own and share those things, even if I'm a teacher. And that's important for me to retain that freedom. I will say being in a college versus like a K through 12 situation might make it easier for me, but I know of some kindergarten teachers who like pose in really small swimsuits and they're fine. Like they're allowed to wear a swimsuit. They're allowed to own their body. They're allowed to do all those things. And I think it's really important. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about all that stuff. Guys, this was a really rambly video. I'm guessing if you watch this that you're like in the background cleaning, eating dinner, cooking, and just listening, because otherwise, I'm sorry. But if you got any information from this that'll be helpful to you, I hope that's the case. I'm just trying to be honest. I would not say that my tactics are especially body positive or courageous or any of those things. My tactics are real and get me through something that's really uncomfortable for me, and I just want to share it to be honest and share the information I have with you. I am definitely linking those 2 Facebook groups I told you about earlier down below. They're immensely helpful. They're going to share a lot of things that are helpful to you in understanding what you want to do. Keep in mind all those different little rules that airlines have about what seats can do which seats have which room. There are websites out there that tell you the width of every single seat. Go look those things up. But also know that the airline needs to work with you. You know, you need to ask them what they can do for you if you are bigger than the seat, and consider what's going to work out for you, monetarily, etc. It might be better for you to drive a state over for you to take Southwest than to fly in a plane that won't fit you. So figure out what's going to be the best situation for you, and travel. I was very anxious coming here. Again, medicated myself for my anxiety. Not that that puts me in any weird state, just takes down my anxiety. And I'm here, and I need to be here. I need to be able to go places. I need to be able to travel. I need to be able to talk to colleagues. I forgot to talk about this part, but I am open with my colleagues. I tell them the truth. I think they respect me for it, honestly. I guess I'm lucky. I work with good people that I feel like I can tell that stuff to. But also, if they don't respect that about me, that is more about them than it is about me. So if I tell them I need this and they laugh about it or whatever, that's for them to deal with. And I highly believe that. And so I'm going to make sure I get what I need and say what I need and do what I need. And if they have a problem with it, they can deal with it. But sometimes easier said than done. I'm going to end this because I keep looking out at the city and being rambly. But do you want to see Columbus real quick? This is my view. So if you kept seeing me look up and off, I do have a pretty good view. It's all very, the window's tinted, it's gray out. These little windows are definitely 80s style buildings. So it's all very 80s and 90s to me. But, whatever. I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.